Hello and welcome to our last lesson. It's lesson 4 and it's time to make the unique connection. This is the one where we're going to pull all of it together. Okay, here's the last move goal for the program. One that I hope you don't just do this week, but for the rest of forever. Move every day. You get to choose how. You get to choose how long, you get to choose how intense. There are so many different ways to move your body. Choose a few of your favorites and rotate through them. That's one thing that has really helped me, having a variety in my exercise. Just find a way to move every day. Try not to think of moving as the regular amount of moving you have to do to get from work or to fix dinner. You want to move more than that. I want you to intentionally choose some type of exercise to move your body every day. It's good for your physical health and it's even better for your mental health. Make a promise to yourself that you're going to do it. Write it in your priorities list under you and then plan it into every day. Make that promise to yourself and then keep it. So that's the move goal for this week and beyond. In today's lesson, we're going to look at what a life fully connected to you looks like. It's time to put all the systems in place and live the life that you have designed. That's what we've been doing in this program, designing the life that you want and how you want your life to look. Each of us needs to decide how we're going to move forward and choose what we're going to take with us from the things that I've shared with you in this program. With all the systems in place of time, life, and self, that's when we begin living with that unique connection. This is when we get to turn our headlights on, shine our light, and we begin to enjoy the ride. Let's do a quick review of each of the lessons. Pay attention to what stands out the most to you. That's usually a good clue as to what you should focus on first. The past is behind, learn from it. The future is ahead, plan for it. The present is here, live it. Message. From the bonus lesson, which I call Connect to Your Mind, have you chosen your destination? Where have you decided to put your focus? And why do you want to go there? When you focus on what you don't want, you just get more of that. Make sure you're focusing on what you do want. Have you decided to keep your destination at the top of your thoughts? And do you have a plan in place to do that? You have to do these things every day. You need to review your destination daily in order to keep that at the top of your thoughts. Have you started a morning routine that you can stick to? Keep tweaking with it as you need to, but keep at it. In fact, when I rewrote my morning checklist for this past month, I made a few tweaks to it. It helps to keep my focus in line with what I want. So don't get stuck in the same old, same old. Making and keeping promises to yourself builds confidence. Then we can be confident in the promises we make and keep with others. You actually keep yourself from growing when you don't keep commitments to yourself. That's how important that unique connection is with yourself. You will keep yourself from growing when you don't have that connection. Right, remember the circle of influence? When you're at the center of your circle of influence, you discover what makes you, you. And that's when you can more effectively radiate outward into that circle of influence. The better you do at making and keeping commitments with yourself, the more prepared you are to extend your influence. But it begins with you. Make sure you begin each day looking forward by deciding how you want your day to go. Then do whatever you can to make that happen. When it doesn't, learn from it and move on. Keep the commitment to look forward every day. It helps give you a place to start each day. This was a really important thing that we covered way back in the bonus lesson that I don't want you to forget. We're not here to create anything. You're not creating a new you. You are exactly who you need to be. And through making this unique connection, you have found her again. And now it's time to make her the best version of who she already is. In lesson 1, you began to connect to your time. You planned for the future, you created your map, and you began to decide what route you're going to take to get to your destination. Remember the post-it party activity where you discovered your priorities? So make time to redo this in a few months. I think it's important to redo this every few months because things do change. And don't worry if the order of your priorities change here and there. It's life, right? We know what our core priorities are, and we know the things that must come first. But then there are those things that change here and there. Those things that need more focus for a while, and then we switch to other things. Give yourself the flexibility to put your focus where it needs to be, while never losing sight of your ultimate destination. Priorities are your desires. Desires are your thoughts. Thoughts help you to make choices. These are the thoughts that allow you to be in your head every day. Then your choices lead to the actions that you take. We talked about rocks versus sand. When you know your top priorities are the rocks, you put them in place first and then allow the other things, which is the sand, to fit in around them. I think you will be surprised at how much you can accomplish with what you must do and need to do, but also that there's a lot of time left to do what you want to do as well. I have definitely found that to be true. Once those rocks were defined, there was more time to do the other things than I thought that there would be, and it felt really good when I discovered this. Have you settled into a starting place with your priorities? Are you ready to give it a try for a while and see if there's changes that are needed? That's a really good place to be. They're going to continue to fall into place as you continue working with them. They'll start feeling more comfortable. Try not to be frustrated if you haven't completely settled into any of this yet. It does take a little while and it does shift. Give yourself time to figure all of that out. Remember, planning is more important than keeping track of appointments. It's keeping appointments on track with your priorities. I tell myself this all the time. It's become a really important reminder because it's not my job to keep others' priorities on my calendar. I want what I've decided to be what my priorities are. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't have other people on my calendar, far from it, but they're on there because I've decided they're a priority of mine. I don't just prioritize what they need me to do before what I need to do. And maybe that seems a little harsh, but to me, it feels more like a mind shift. It doesn't feel like it's not right to always put other people first. When you put what you need first, then you actually have more to give to the other people in your life. That's where all this comes from. Please don't forget this one. All right, let's move on to what we learned in lesson 2, connecting to your life. You make the choice. This is where we learned about living in the present. You are in charge of who is holding the steering wheel. You get to choose how you're going to enjoy the trip. Now, taking the wheel doesn't mean I get to go everywhere I want, but I do get to choose who helps me determine where I'm going. I get to choose who's in the car with me, who's in the front seat, and who I listen to the most. I also get to allow who's in the back seat and who I'm dropping off and only visiting when I decide the time is right. When you plan according to your priorities, you get to take charge of how you spend your time. And it is a very empowering thing when you begin to feel like this. God gave us memories that we might have June roses in the December of our lives, by James M. Barrie. This has been one of my favorite quotes for a long time. I love Peter Pan, and James M. Barrie is who wrote Peter Pan. Isn't it a beautiful thought? God gave us memories that we might have June roses in the December of our lives. That's why it's so important to keep track of our memories so they're not forgotten. It's why we make it a priority to make our memories so our lives are not just full of mindless, wasted time. We want to choose how we spend our time so our minds are full of meaningful memories that we can enjoy later. Those can be as simple as sitting and talking to someone we love or spending time with ourselves doing things that we enjoy. The bad news is time flies. The good news is that you're the pilot. Okay, let's talk about looking backward. I wanted to share both of these quotes today because I wanted to remind you that you are in control of how your precious time is spent. And that's what connecting to your life is all about. The power lies in recognizing that you have connected to your ability to make choices, and that affects how you live your life. I love the analogy of the rear view mirror. Because of the things that have happened in our past, we get to learn from that and use it to help us move forward. When you've gained trust in yourself that you can do it, trusting that you've had experiences in the past that will help you to face what's before you, it begins to give you even more trust in yourself. You become more self-confident. When you spend time with you when you journal, it gives you the opportunity to access that inner wisdom. The experiences you've collected during your life are waiting for you to access them. When you look back, they are there to help you so that you can move forward. Sometimes the only way to access those memories and experiences is through self-reflection. And the best way I found to do that is in the practice of journaling. When I try to do that just by thinking about it, that's when the ruminating happens and it just spins. Journaling stops that rumination. I also want you to remember that just because our inner critic says something, it doesn't make it true. Have you named your inner critic yet? It's helpful in identifying her when she shows up and might even make you smile a bit when you recognize her there. It may even end up being a game when she starts to show up. Probably not at first. And when you start writing, those negative thoughts really seem like they're true. Then all of a sudden you recognize that it's that darn critic, Patrice, and she doesn't need to be there. Just because she's saying it in your mind doesn't make it true. That's when I start listening to me and I let me do the talking. It might take you a little while until a name sticks for you for that inner critic, one that will start to stick around and then you'll know it's the right one. Patrice is what stuck for me. Here are a few of the benefits of journaling that I've found. It brings your focus inward. It lowers stress levels. It helps you to find your place in the universe. You begin to discover your own identity. It helps you to give you a strong sense of self. You learn to trust yourself, and it gives you a place to start to work out problems. I hope you've begun to find some of your own benefits of journaling. There are so many, and I'd love it if you'd share some of them with me. When you get to know someone, you spend time with them, you listen to what they have to say, probably ask them questions and find out how they feel about things. This applies to getting to know yourself also. This is how you connect to yourself. Taking time with yourself, giving yourself permission to spend time with your own thoughts, listening and finding out how you really feel, giving yourself a voice. That's how you get to know yourself. That's how you begin to give yourself more value too. I found that I value my opinion more. I really trust myself more, and it's because I've given myself time to talk to me. Maybe that sounds a little weird. I hope you've begun doing some journaling enough that you understand what I'm saying. If not, keep at it until you do. The more you journal, the more you're going to recognize that relationship that you're building. It's become one of my very favorite relationships. I treasure it so much. I've really learned to love her and to really need her and to rely on her more than I ever thought was possible. I really do have more trust in myself, because when I journal, I can see what starts coming. Please don't give up. It doesn't come right as soon as you start. Don't give up. It's going to get better, I promise. There's that delicious cake again. Layer by layer, we learn more about ourselves and what we may have just quickly passed over by not digging into it. That's why it's important to keep at it. You may find yourself thinking, oh, I wrote about this yesterday. But if you keep writing, you'll see there's another layer. There's going to be more there. Pay attention to that. If it keeps coming up, keep writing, keep doing it. Even if it's day after day, you're going to find out some really amazing things as you keep working through those layers. Journaling helps us work through those layers, and it helps us to discover our strong beginning. You have inner wisdom, and she is there for you. You have worked your whole life to add to that inner wisdom. She is the real you. You don't have to give her a different name because she's the best of all you do. We give that inner critic the other name. Recognize you and recognize that inner critic. You get to see the difference, and you get to choose who you're going to listen to. All of your experiences, the good and usually even more so the hard times, have added to her wisdom. That's what's made her so smart. Now, sometimes she doesn't know when she's going to be needed again. So she just sits back and she waits for the time that she's called upon. So call on her. The answers are within you. You just need to bring them out again. Writing stops that ruminating. Don't ruminate about all the negative. Write about it. Sit down and write about it. Get it out there on the page. Get it out of your head and onto the paper. You're going to find that it really helps. It slows down that process to where you can understand it more. So that gets us to our final lesson. Today, lesson 4, making a unique connection. It's time to turn the headlights on and enjoy the ride. That's what the light is for, to help you feel the joy of it all. Feeling lonely brings uncertainty. Feeling connection to yourself feels safe. Safe to get out there again, secure in who you are. You feel more trust in yourself, and you begin to feel more hope. Connection with yourself is like a tightly wrapped, soft blanket around you. It feels good to be supported and encouraged by others. But when you feel supported and encouraged by yourself, there is nothing more empowering, nothing that brings more comfort and more peace. In fact, whenever I start feeling unsupported, I close my eyes and imagine myself being swaddled by a large blanket like that baby is. When I do that, it brings everything inside. Take a minute right now and give it a try. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself being swaddled up tightly by that blanket. Let yourself feel that peace for a minute. I find that when I've made these connections with myself, this is exactly what I feel like. When I need a little bit of extra, which happens to all of us, I do this little exercise. You don't have to wait to be acknowledged. You've already done it. You can acknowledge yourself. You will always be there for you, and that feels really good. So what does your life look like with all of these systems in place? I'm not going to paint a picture for you full of roses. I'm not going to say that since I started using these systems, I'm always happy, that I'm always encouraging myself and I never feel down. That's not true. In fact, it just happened this past week that I really had a few down days, but there's a difference now. I have a baseline to go to. I've built a relationship with me, and I know I can trust me. Now, it may take a bit, but it comes quicker than it used to because I show up for myself. I'm there cheering me on, and I get back to a good place. faster than I used to. Now, I know I know that when those bad times come, that there's a light ahead, not just more dark. I won't ever have to stay in that dark place forever. Can you see that when your light comes on, the connections that are made by consistently using these systems, knowing where you're going, knowing where you're at, knowing how you want to get to where you're going, making your own choices, having those priorities in place, and knowing that you're there all along to support yourself the entire way, these systems are really going to be helpful for you. It helps you to know that it's not going to be dark for very long. Those systems shine that light in front of you, and it is the best feeling. You know that your light is always there. It's always within you, and that's when you can start sharing it with others. Let's take a minute to look back at how things were for you before you started this program. So I want you to take a minute and to think about that. One way that you can see the difference is in how you decide what goes on your calendar. What's a difference that you see now? Do you decide beforehand what you'd like to do in the day? Do you make decisions on what your top priorities are? Are you pickier about what goes on that calendar and what you allow into your day? Do you decide what you're going to do because you have already decided what kind of trip you want to have? I hope you're beginning to see the difference between now and where you were before. If you're actively doing these systems, I know you'll start seeing a difference. I know you've only been at it for a month, but as you practice it more, you'll begin to see it even more clearly. So again, please don't give up. A month is not very long. Keep trying. Because you get to make the decisions, you get to use the gifts you've been given to live your life. The more you connect with yourself, the more you recognize the gifts that are yours. Each one of us has gifts. Sometimes we actually block our gifts by believing that only other people have gifts. But I hope that's not you anymore because of the connection you're making with yourself. The more that connection deepens, the more you're going to recognize your gifts. Our gifts work together with other people's gifts. They're different. And when we work together with other people's gifts around us, that's when we make this incredible, wonderful whole. When you're true to who you are, then your gifts add to the gifts of others. We're not trying to have someone else's gifts. We value our own and we value our contribution. When you don't use the gifts you're given, you begin to dim your light. Your light influences the people in your circle. And when you let your light shine, then those connections happen. Remember that circle of influence? The size of the circle doesn't matter. It's what takes place inside that circle that matters. The goal is to fill up your circle with those gifts you've been given. Take care of the people in your circle in the way that you were meant to. You're at the center of that circle, so you have to take care of you first. Connect with you so you can begin radiating outward, and then you take care of the others around you. They are important, and just because it's not hundreds of important people that you're influencing, the world thinks we're only important if we're seen by millions of people, or if we have huge followings, or if we're famous, but that's just not true. It's important to the one that you're influencing. So turn your headlights on with the goodness that's radiating out of you. Fill your circle with your light. Stop wasting your potential on things that don't really matter to you. We're all here to do different things. Discover what you were put here to do. And because we're all part of one great whole, we have to do our part. You're missing out on all you can be and the goodness of that life if you're trying to do what someone else was meant to do. And those in your circle are missing out on all that you are. You have gifts that are yours alone to give, so start using them. When you make improvements in your life, like we've laid the foundation for in the Uniquee Connection program, you are prepared to focus in on your part. You have special gifts that you were meant to share. Hiding behind overwhelm or self-doubt and saying that you can't do it only prevents you from sharing your gifts. They're excuses and they're not truth. And I think you really know that, or that you're beginning to see that more. Building self-confidence is the key. And remember that making and keeping commitments to yourself is the key to building self-confidence. I don't think I can ever say that enough. Use the systems I've taught you to help you define your gifts. Do what you can to develop them as you share them with others. Much of the developing starts to happen when you start to share them. That's why you have to make this unique connection, so you can start getting it out there and to start sharing it with others. It's such a powerful thing, and I just love it. Create new connections. Nurture old connections. Make a unique connection. I want to play a song for you, but because I don't own it, I legally can't. But you can go find it and listen to it. It's the song Glorious by David Archuleta. He was on one of the first seasons of American Idol. Now here are the words. It's about finding your own gifts and what can happen when we put them all together. Go ahead and pause this and read them. Do you have a favorite song you listen to when you need to pick me up? This is one of mine. It helps me to remember to play my part and not try to play someone else's part. When we play our parts together, it's like a beautiful symphony, and that wouldn't be the same without everyone's part. May I suggest starting a playlist on your phone that you can put songs that just make you feel better, ones that give you that little push to get up and get going again. Try not to choose songs that make you feel sad or bad. Find ones that uplift and inspire you to keep going. It's one of my favorite things I turn to when I'm having a hard time. Okay, we're going to pause the video in just a minute so that you can journal. I'd like you to specifically journal about your thoughts on Unique Connection, not about what I said. I want you to write more about how it makes you feel. What do you want to take away from this program? What stands out to you as the most important thing you learned? It might have been something that I didn't even say. What's something that you've learned about yourself? I can't teach you that, and that is a very important thing to learn. I hope that you can't write it all down in 15 minutes. Take the time you need to get it all written down. So pause on this next slide. I hope that went well for you and that you were able to write some really important things for you to remember. Okay, here's the homework for this lesson. One way to see the difference from where you started to where you are now is in how you decide what goes on your calendar. What difference do you see? Write down what changes you have made. Number 2, start a pick me up playlist. You can start with Glorious from David Archuleta if you'd like. This Is Me from The Greatest Showman is one of my favorites also. Number 3, review each of the 3 unique connection method systems. Connect to your time, connect to your life, connect to yourself, and write your biggest takeaway from each of the 3 systems. And number 4, move every day. Every day. Thank you so much for being in the Unique Connection program. I am beyond honored at the chance to share these systems with you. I've witnessed their power in my life and in the lives of some of my students. I hope you will share with me how they have helped you as well. Watch for a survey coming out in the next week. I would appreciate your feedback so much. I also hope to connect with you in other ways in the hunky-dory world. Until then, I wish you all the best in the world, and I hope you all the happiness there is. Bye.